And you're watching the Pulse here on the Joy News channel. Still ahead, we're looking at the policy which is being taken in Germany as we speak. The new migration policy that is likely to affect illegal immigrants. There are fears that some Ghanaians may be affected as a result of the exercise. I will speak to some Ghanaians in Germany shortly. Stay with us. We'll be back. And thanks for staying with us. We take you now elsewhere to Europe because Germany is planning some mass deportation of all persons who do not have permission to remain there. That is those whose visas have either expired, those who are, taking some asylum and have been denied, or even those who went there through unapproved means. This afternoon, we're bringing you details on the latest, especially the Ghanaian angle in this whole new drive and immigration policy by Germany. Shortly, we'll be joined by the founder and chairperson of the GH Support Association Germany, a group which is seeking to support Ghanaians through this process. They've been providing some support as well to other African nationals who may not have permission to legally reside in Germany, but we'll be speaking to them on what they're doing to reach out to more Ghanaians. And also joining us is Kweku Yeboah, Component Manager, Ghanaian European Center for Jobs, Migration and Development based in Accra. Well, before we get to all of the conversation, let's bring in Thomas Sparrow. He's with our partners, the DW, reporting and delving more into this migration crisis, which is facing Germany as we speak. So let's get to it, Thomas. What's the basis of this new policy? We stay on this because German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has stoked up the debate around migration by saying Germany must deport illegal immigrants on a grand scale. Proposals are now being discussed in order to decide on how this could actually happen. In terms of practice, German politicians have said the country is at the limit of its capacity because of the high number of arrivals. So we now bring in Thomas Sparrow, political correspondent for our partners DW in Berlin, joining me now. Thomas, I was just asking the question earlier. How does Scholz, the Chancellor, plan to carry out these deportations?
The overall goal of the German government is, on the one hand, to reduce the number of migrants that are arriving in the country irregularly, in other words, that do not have the right to stay, and at the same time increase the number of migrants that are arriving in the country that are high-skilled and can fill a gap in a number of professions where there are problems in this area. Specifically on the first issue, namely making sure that fewer irregular migrants arrive, the German Chancellor stressed that there will be a series of measures both at a national level and at the EU level. This is particularly important because Germany cannot resolve the issue of migration on its own. At a national level, the German Chancellor has already implemented some measures, including stricter border controls at Germany's borders with other European countries. But at the EU level, the main issue, and by the way, an issue that has already been discussed for many years, still remains unresolved completely, namely the fair distribution of migrants throughout the different European countries. This is still a very big issue here in Europe.
And there are many who are asking the question, how big is this problem of migration in your country?
It is a big problem here in Germany, and already the numbers of arrivals are being compared to the height of Germany's refugee crisis in 2015 and 2016. Only in the month of September, over 20,000 migrants, irregular migrants, came to Germany. That's the highest number since February 2016. And already high-ranking German officials, including the German president, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who's the head of state, have said that Germany has reached its limit, the limits of its capacity when it comes to receiving and welcoming these migrants and also integrating these migrants into Germany's society. This is something that, by the way, you also see in cities and municipalities that have been complaining also for weeks and months that they need more help from the federal government. So it is indeed a very big problem, and one that probably prompted Chancellor Scholz to say this statement that Germany now has to start deporting irregular migrants or illegal migrants on a large scale.
except that now it's beginning to stoke a lot of tensions. But tell me, how are Germans actually reacting to this latest proposals?
Both generally on the issue of migration and specifically when it comes to the reaction by the German government, Germans are very critical indeed. A majority of Germans, according to a recent nationwide poll, stressed that migrants bring more disadvantages than advantages to Germany and that the numbers should be reduced. And they're also very critical when it comes to the way the government has been dealing with this issue, when it comes not only to the arrival and reception of refugees, but also when it comes to issues that are more long-term, like the integration of refugees, and specifically also when it comes to deporting illegal or irregular refugees. So this has also increased pressure on the German government to act more on these issues.
Meanwhile, the German Chancellor announced a trip to 2 African countries. Let's get the details of the countries' history.
And all this comes actually at a time when German Chancellor Scholz is expected to travel to West Africa for 3 days, starting next Sunday. He's expected to visit Abuja and Lagos in Nigeria and then Accra in Ghana. And Scholz will travel with a high-ranking business and cultural delegation, which gives you an idea of the trip's priorities. Scholz, the Chancellor, is expected to hold talks with the Nigerian president, the Ghanaian president and the chairman of the ECOWAS Commission. Now, German officials said strengthening ties with African nations is indeed a high priority for the German government, especially at a time of security and economic challenges. And according to the German government, the most important topics of the trip are regional security and cooperation on topics such as economic development or climate change.
I see. Joining us on Zoom now, and thanks Thomas for giving us the latest from Berlin where you are. But on Zoom with us is the founder and chairperson of the Ghana Support Association Germany, GQ, who's joining us via Zoom now to have a conversation on this. Thank you, sir. And you've been monitoring the space as well. Congratulations for at least supporting and reaching out to other Ghanaians who might be affected through this policy. What official briefing are you receiving, first of all, on the timeline, the window that you have to try and reach out to all these Ghanaians who might not have their papers ready? And kindly unmute for me, sir, while you make the point.
Can you hear me, please?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you for having me on the show. I'm GQ at the moment in Saarbrücken, which is the smallest, the capital of Saarland. Chairman of the Gene Support Association in Germany. Basically, I think we still need to have to go to the details when there is a policy here, because most of our nationals having much difficulties with the language. So there must be a provision given to us in terms of learning the language to make it more easier for us to get into the system.
I see. So is language the only barrier here, or what are the other requirements for making these people regular migrants, if that opportunity is there?
I think basically the language barrier here. But then I look at the policy, for instance, most Ghanaians, they are born talented, but in education-wise, it's not much a trend. And this policies is not going to favor most of the Ghanaians, probably from the Cameroonians, or other nationals. But Ghana, I see there's a bit challenges here. There should be more flexibility for the policy.
So what kind of help are you providing now, which I'm interested in? What's your priority now in terms of the type of help you would like to extend to these people?
Well, we accompany most of the Ghanaians or most of the Africans here having problem with the language to the foreign office, to the labor office, translate their letters for them into the Tree language or English language. We help them looking for apartment if they don't have insurance or having difficulties with their rent. We come in to translate, and we also work close with the police if they have to explain themselves in case of any difficulties. So we are here doing across the country.
I see. Looking at the numbers, how How many, in terms of estimation, are you able to tell us who might be affected as a result of the exercise? Perhaps from where you are, looking at the numbers from where you are.
Well, if I guess properly, I think the Ghanaians, the Ghanaians might be today 60,000.
60,000?
Yes, 60,000 across the country. And but this might not be included those with a German passport, because those with a German passport are not considered as the Ghanaians. But then we see them as the Ghanaians, because even in their passport, the place of birth shows you clearly that Boise, Accra, Sunyani, and South. We have guessly 60,000 Ghanaians in Germany across the country.
Why is this a big issue or a major issue in Germany as we speak? Why do we find the influx, many people moving towards that part of the world, especially from Ghana and the West Africa sub-region?
Because we see Germany is a very good place to start a new life. But I think in terms of policy, it's much difficult for foreigners to step into it. It's good that they are trying to bring this new migrant policy from November this year. But they started back in 2018.
Right.
They started discussing in the Federal Council, but never came to pass. So we hope. And we see at back office, a country like Ghana is an English-speaking country. And if you want skilled workers to come to Germany to work, and then you give a first line that they must do a German text before you can give them the provision to come, it means you've still limited them to come to Germany. So I think the policy should be twisted a bit, that they can come with their talent, because we believe most Ghanaians are much talented in terms of what they do. And once they are here, they can learn the language aside. But if you impose a law that they must do a text, the German text, once they pass, it will be able then to come to Germany. You still limited them to come.
And I've been trying to look at the kind or sort of reaction greeting this policy from the African diaspora where you are. It's not been favorable so far. Share the experiences with me.
At all. Things still must be done. We see, I always say that we are on the ground, so we know the difficulties on the ground. So if they make policy in Berlin, they should also look at the grounds, how it will help those, because we have the rich, middle, and the low class. So when you make a policy, you shouldn't consider looking at the top rank. Then you limited those on the grounds. That is the problem that the migrants are facing in Germany, and that is a fact. Even though Germany has short of labor since 2017, that is why they plan to bring this migrant policy, skilled workers into the system, but still you need to go to the German text before you are able to come. That is a problem over there.
I see. 60,000 people, estimation, we're just working with that figure. I'm wondering if all of these people will be deported. That's a significant number.
No. All of them will be there. Those 60,000 are generally those who also have the German staying permit. German staying permit.
Okay, so some have the opportunity of just taking advantage of the permits.
But those might be deported, ranking probably 5,000 to 7,000 across the country.
Wow. How smooth is that process, the process you're referring to now?
Germans, they normally do things not in rush. They take time to make decisions, and except certain cases, they can just bring to a court and decide as quick as possible. But you can't predict. But I believe to the end of the year, things will move and then decision will be made.
I see. Just stay on with us because also joining the conversation is Kweku Yeboah. He's a component manager, Ghanaian European Center for Jobs, Migration and Development. And Kweku, you've also been listening to this latest migration policy being introduced by the German government. Fortunately, we're learning that the German Chancellor himself will be to a number of West African countries, including Ghana and Nigeria. These are countries also added to the list of the high-rated influx, immigrants living there in Germany who might be affected as a result of this exercise. Tell me, is this policy going to be as harsh as many are predicting it to be?
Yes, sure. Oh, it's not me. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, yes, if you can hear me.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me, please?
Loud and clear, sir.
Good, thank you. So, largely, The policy obviously is not going to be overly harsh. I mean, all policies have their negative and positive sides, but I doubt its harshness to that extent. I mean, there are various components of the policy that will surely inure to the benefit of the country. Where I work with the GIZ, the Ghanaian European Center, which is commissioned by the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation. And one of the key things we are doing on regular migration front is to support the capacity development of our people, i.e. those from the TVET institutions, those from the tertiary institutions, to explore opportunities using migration as a 360 degrees enterprise to support the development of our people to find jobs, not only here in Ghana, but also abroad, including Germany. And the policy is making room for this. I mean, I just got out of a meeting with the EU, and one of the key components of the discussion is regular migration and how the Ghanaian skilled labor can take advantage of it, given the youth unemployment situation here. This opens another window for the country, and I think this is the focus for the Ghanaian European Center as far as the policy under consideration is concerned.
And since you've been receiving some briefing on that, do we know now from the Ghanaian perspective if there's any official figures being put to it as to the estimated number of people who might be affected as a result of the exercise, possible deportations, and some remedial measures for those who are already there who may take advantage of a lifeline to just become a regular migrant in Germany?
I will not be able to give you exact figures. I think there are state institutions that handle that component. What my work relates to largely is how can we support not only the reintegration of Ghanaians who are returning home, and I'm here talking about not only those who for documentation purposes have to come back, but also even voluntary returnees. And this support we have been providing for the Ghanaian migrant population who are returning since 2017. I mean, we are talking about helping them start their businesses here in Ghana, helping them find accommodation. We give them accommodation support for over a year. And as I said, these are all funded by the German government. The attempt is to support the successful reintegration of returning Ghanaians, whether they are voluntary returnees or people who for legal reasons have to return home. So to be specific on the numbers, I'll say these can be provided much more suitably by state institutions in the sector, but our focus is largely supporting the successful reintegration of the Ghanaian community, which is now being complemented by regular migration support as well.
The interesting fact about it is that while we work to check the figures out there, right here in our country, you still have a lot more of our youthful population moving out into Europe. Are you mindful of that, worried also, and what policies should our governments be considering on this?
Yeah, clearly there is a significant number of our people who have interest to go to Europe. Yes, from our end, our focus has been providing counseling services for people who desire to go to Europe to use regular migratory approaches and not the irregular means which exposes them to dangers and so on. So the center, which is again under the GIZ Ghana, provides not only information and career sessions for communities and schools, but we are also supporting capacity building for state institutions. We work under the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations and directly with the Labor Department to provide information for people who desire to go outside. So what we are doing is trying to encourage regular migration and to look to tap in the positive sides of migration for purposes of our people. Don't forget, yes, we need to have as many of the labor force here in Ghana, but there are also those we produce, so many of them who are not finding the opportunities that they require. And there are also those who desire to go and learn, do further studies abroad to build their capacity. And I think the most important thing which we do here is to provide support for these people to be able to get whatever capacity needs they require appropriately.
We're grateful that you've spent some time with us. We'll keep monitoring the space and bring you up to speed. GQ, if you're with us, any final words from Germany? And what would you want Ghanaians here to know about, the immigration trends and also taking such perilous journeys as some of them have done?
Well, the advice I'll give to Ghanaians is they should look to the right channel to come, because if you come without documents, you are not able to rent an apartment. You might have a problem with insurance, because when you're sick, you can't go to the hospital. But I think our government should build a structure for the Ghanaians not to travel. If you're looking at the Arab world, before Libya was collapsed and other Arab wars, they were not traveling. And why? Because the facilities were provided for them. So I think more focus on the government. Once you have a place to stay, to work, to get a little income, you might not have interest to travel. But I think Germany is also a good place to come. But Germany, they must twist the policy a bit for us. If they want to accept us, if they want us to come, they still have to look at the policy for us to come.
Grateful. Kweku, any final words from your side?
Yeah, I think of importance is what do we get from the entire migratory processes. And that is where my focus will be. Yes, it is important we build structures to make sure we have as many people here in the country, and that is already ongoing. There are various programs within government structures and even through development cooperation to support, yes. But we also don't have to deny ourselves the opportunity that migration brings. I mean, remittances are a key contribution to our fiscal space. And I don't think we have to cut that. What we have to do is to explore the positives of migration. And that is what the Ghanaian European Center and the GIZ, with support of the German government, is doing. And I believe that if we are able to sensitize our people to tap into the regular opportunities that are available for migration, that is quite useful for they themselves, for the host country, and for Ghana as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kweku. And we'll definitely be in touch as this matter unfolds.